Hello neighbor, I'm Robert Burns, founder of the blog Sound Off Louisiana, and I'm happy to be coming to you to bring another segment. I've taken about a 2-month hiatus off since the last segment that we did. That would be Corey Delahousse having sued the Office of Inspector General, but I'm happy to be back with you. And as you saw in the title of the email that went out, and as you were seeing in the headlines of this post, I have a very big smile on my face, and I'm going to let you know the reason for that smile. When I first formed the blog Sound Off Louisiana, it was actually my intent not to make post with regard to the auction industry in Louisiana, and that was for 2 reasons. Number one, I have a completely separate website, auctioneer-la.org, in which there is replete evidence of the extensive corruption within the auction industry in Louisiana, and it's geared toward folks that are really interested in auction, be it bidders or be it other auctioneers. And the second reason that I had figured I would never make a post on Sound Off Louisiana with regard to the auction industry is I was simply convinced that nobody was ever going to do anything about the corruption that exists within the industry. And I am happy to report to you, as you have seen from the headlines of this article, that John Bel Edwards has taken the bull by the horns, even though it's very, very early in his administration, and he has made a significant impact in helping to clean up this auction industry, and he's done so by terminating the services of LALB, that's Louisiana Auctioneers Licensing Board Chairman Tessa Steinkamp. And in so doing, he has brought and he has rid what has been a 17-year tenure of pure rank corruption that woman has overseen. And I will provide links to you momentarily to let you delve into more of that corruption that will be on that website that I told you about, that we have been dedicated to the auction industry for all of these years. But the reason that I am so gleeful over making this post to you is that auction is what I spent the majority of my working career doing. I was a licensed auctioneer in the state of Louisiana for 10 years. It was what I was passionate about. It is the vocation that brought me the most satisfaction, the most enjoyment. I thoroughly enjoyed being an auctioneer. But I will tell you that I voluntarily ended my auction career at the end of 2012, and I did so because of the absolute rank corruption that transpires in that industry. And, you know, I cannot thank Governor John Bel Edwards enough. I cannot praise him enough, especially for this early in his administration, for him to have taken the bold move of terminating the services of LALB Chairman Tessa Steinkamp, who spearheaded much of that corruption. And that was over a 17-year period that she did so. Governor John Bel Edwards did this on Wednesday, April the 20th, in a press release. And I'd just like to elaborate, because I find this incredible, as to how this is likely to have come about. I have a very good friend. I'm not going to give his name, and I will say he is not within a 100-mile radius of Baton Rouge, but he is very, very tight with John Bel Edwards. And I was informed that this gentleman and Mr. Edwards, everything this gentleman has ever told me, when I have gone to look it up in a court, because I'm from Missouri. You know, I'm literally from Louisiana, but I may as well be from Missouri, because you got to show me. I don't take anything. Anybody's at their word on anything. I was a federal fraud investigator in the early 90s for the FDIC, and I guess that's one reason why. But this gentleman, nothing he's ever said hasn't checked out, and this gentleman told me that he's very tight. They're good friends, John Bel Edwards and this gentleman, and he told me that they had dinner here a few weeks back, and he told him about some of the problems in the auction industry, and in particular one specific problem. And John Bel Edwards didn't believe it. Well, he said, I find that hard to believe, that a certain thing got said in an LALB meeting. And I'm being vague on purpose, because I'm told John Bel Edwards is not done in making corrective actions, not only on the Auctioneers Licensing Board, but also on some other boards as well. But when John Bel Edwards said that he found that difficult to believe, you know, in the modern age we live in, even though they were at a dinner table, what he did is he he had it bookmarked to show him the video, and so there was no denying it then. And if you and we're going to give you links. There are embarrassing episodes in there, but there's separate tabs for embarrassments by these board members. But we're going to give you the links of what is some of this corruption. You can say, well, you're throwing out corruption. Give us some evidence. I'm going to give you evidence, all right? I'm going to give you a link for the corruption that took place at New Orleans Auction Gallery. Now, I'm not going to go into all the detail here because it'll make the video too long, but I will briefly say, you know, there are going to be folk out there, hardcore Republicans, that will say, I cannot believe that you are issuing a big thank you and a big note of praise for John Bel Edwards, a Democrat. Well, you're going to have to live with it, okay? Because my #1 priority is ridding the state of Louisiana of corruption and cronyism, and I don't give two bent pins whether it's a Democrat or a Republican who gets the credit for it. And I'm going to tell you right now, Bobby Jindal spent 8 years in that office. He was aware of every bit of this corruption. He never did one thing in 8 years about it. Not only did he not do anything about it, he aided and abetted it. He put in people that continued to perpetuate it, and he tried to bury it all under the rug, all right? So, yes, I'm going to praise John Bel Edwards on this because he did more in 100 days despite all of the problems that he inherited, the massive budget problems. He had time to actually delve down into a board this small. Yes, it is a small pissant board, okay? But I'll tell you something. If you think little small pissant boards can't affect people's lives, just go ask Danny Punn. All right, that's a gentleman who bid over $100,000 on a fake painting at New Orleans Auction Gallery, all right? Over $100,000 on a painting that was virtually worthless, okay? Now that'll tantalize you a little bit and make you want to click on the link. Tessa Steinkamp was director, treasurer. She knew all about this, all right? Danny Punn got victimized right in the closing days, right before this firm filed bankruptcy. Had she done what she was supposed to do and informed, in the capacity she was in, she kept all of this silent, all right? He could have been spared that $100,000 log. In fact, quite likely would have, because that operation should have been shut down under those circumstances. Plenty of other problems, you know, and yet he loses over $100,000 in an auction that really shouldn't have taken place, and it was on complete fake merchandise. Now, you think that can't impact people's lives, little pissant boards? Just ask 83-year-old Betty Story, okay, trying to move into an assisted living facility, and an auctioneer took her to the cleaners, you know, for a little over, charged her for buying her own merchandise back. We're going to give you the link for that one as well, all right? You can delve into as much as you want. I'm not going to go into all the details because it may make these videos too long. This is the kind of thing that has gone on in this board. And I'm going to bring out one other huge one, okay? Because all of this originated in the Interior Design Board. And that is the payroll fraud that has gone on both of these two agencies by the executive director, a one Sandy Edmonds, okay? And let me just say this, Reverend Freddie Lee Phillips, a gentleman, very good friend of mine, he exposed it. Going to give you the link that we already have put out there, the post of him exposing the payroll fraud going on both in the Interior Design Board and the LALB. And just take a look at what all they did to ensure that, hey, you're not going to cause us problems about revealing our payroll fraud. Same thing happened to me. You know, I'll go ahead and give you that link. You know, they went ahead and went after my license for having reported this stuff. And that's when I said, all right, that's it. If y'all going to be that hell-bent on having corruption, I'm out of this industry, okay? John Bel Edwards he has appointed, now, Reverend Phillips used to serve on the LALB under Jindal. At the end of his first term, Reverend Phillips, you'll see it as an embarrassment link, under Anna Dow, the board attorney, who asked him 4 times in a 2-minute span if he was carrying a weapon. And Reverend Phillips said, that is the last straw. He told Governor Jindal, he said, I'm not serving under your second term, okay? What Reverend Phillips has done has sat out for 4 years, and now that we've got a governor who's not out there running all over the world wearing a Sharia law, whatever he was so preoccupied with in England in his delusional quest for the presidency, now apparently we've got a governor who doesn't want all of this tainting that Jindal would have dumped onto him, and he's doing something about it. And for the hardcore Republicans that are on this list that are going to be upset with me over giving praise to John Bel Edwards, look, this is the way I see it. We have 2 other bloggers, Tom Aswell and Bob Mann. They both were active supporters of John Bel Edwards. Nevertheless, they were very disheartened at his reappointment of Mike Edmondson, and that using their objective journalism skills, they criticized him over it. I have the same obligation, okay? I supported David Vitter, and one of the key reasons I did is I knew for a fact David Vitter was going to come in and clean some of this up. I can tell you right now, it was going to happen, all right? I went to closed-door meetings that he had. I went in Valerie Hodges' home as a state representative, and I brought these issues up, and that man gave me his insurance. But even David Vitter said with all of the massive problems facing the state, it would probably be about 6 months before he could start to really focus in on these boards and commissions. John Bel Edwards hadn't even been in office but 100 days, and he's already done more than Bobby Jindal did in 8 years. So you're just going to have to live with the fact that I am going to issue that statement of praise, that statement of thank you for John Bel Edwards, because if you think that, oh, I'm going to be somebody that just because I'm a Republican is going to just toe the line, you know, and well, you can forget it, okay? My interest is in cleaning up corruption and cronyism, and I don't care who gets the credit of it. I'm gonna, when there's instances where this is being done, you can book it. I'm gonna put it up there, okay? And this one is very, 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 very personal for me, okay? So I am issuing the highest statement of praise and admiration for John Bel Edwards in having obviously he looked at the video, okay? You can bet Bobby Jindal would have never done that, but you couldn't even get legislators that could be able to talk to Bobby Jindal. Some of the highest legislators, no, he's too aloof, you know, and here's just an ordinary citizen that sat down with him at dinner, you know, and told him about some problems and just pulled out, using modern technology, pulled out his iPhone and showed him, you know. So, you know, I'm just going to tell you, when this kind of thing happens, I'm going to put it out there as a praise for John Bel Edwards, because he has done something that I did not think was going to happen. I just gone ahead and lulled myself into believing that, hey, corruption's going to be on this thing no matter what. Now, as I said, John Bel Edwards has appointed Reverend Freddie Phillips onto this board. I cannot praise him enough in that regard, because it was Reverend Phillips who was pointing out all of these problems, particularly on the Interior Design Board and the LALB with regard to the payroll fraud. So I can guarantee you that Reverend Freddie Phillips, a very good friend of mine, he is not going to let John Bel Edwards down, and he also isn't going to back down from what the insight he already has about the corruption on this LALB. You're talking about he has 10 years of experience, because this man kept going to LALB meetings. Just because he said I'm getting off this board because I'm not going to put up with this, okay? He had the dedication to continue coming. All right, so he's quite familiar with things that have gone on that board. Now, as I said, I'm not going to go into detail, but on 2 other boards, I can tell you, and this is directly speaking with someone who has spoken directly with John Bel Edwards, okay? And he's going to be taking corrective action on those boards as well. And that's why you see the big smile on my face, because I can tell you right now, there are serious, serious problems in this state with regard to boards and commissions, okay? And I can tell you right now, the Interior Design Board is a huge problem, okay? And it is, and I'll give you the link. We've got a completely separate website for that. It is oppressing minority hiring opportunities. It is suppressing job opportunities. I'll give you direct links to substantiate that, studies that substantiate that. And it was that board who set up this whole payroll fraud system, okay? You know, where Sandy Edmonds could be out vacationing, and she did vacation left and right, and not taking any kind of leave, and would be out shopping, doing anything, all because, oh, well, I've got a cell phone, and if somebody happens to call, which would almost never happen because the Interior Design Board does nothing. They haven't had one single complaint, I don't think, in its history. I'm talking about a consumer complaint now. I'm not. You got interior designers that complain that, hey, so and so's out there advertising as interior designer with no license. You know, the reality is they ought to be able to do that, because that board is a complete teetotal 100% joke. And the whole way that the payroll fraud was able to take place is that Sandy Edmonds happens to be the wife of Matthew Edmonds, who teaches interior design at LSU under Dr. T.L. Ritchie. All right, we put a post out on Dr. Ritchie and this whole payroll fraud. And so the teaching assistant, Matthew Edmonds, or resident in training, I believe they call it, when the opening for this Interior Design Board came up, they gave the job to Miss Edmonds, and then set up parameters that said, hey, you don't have to come to the office. You don't have to, it'll be a, quote, performance-based position, which the Inspector General's office said is illegal. There is no such thing. You cannot report that you're working 25 hours a week when you are not working them, okay? You also would have to beg the question that if the job doesn't require 25 hours a week and may require, say, 2 hours a week, then you got to wonder, why in the hell does this thing exist in the first place? But at any rate, you know, I'm going to wrap this video up. I'm going to reserve the right to bring it back, but I'm letting everyone know I am suspending the JBE fraud website, okay? And yes, it is as a result of this development, all right? That doesn't mean that I may not bring it back, because we've got to get these sales taxes that were put on, they've got to be not renewed after 27 months, you know, and there's going to have to be spending constraints put on. I still feel very strongly about that, don't get me wrong. One of the ways to do that, if Governor Edwards would like a little free advice, and I never thought any advice would be taken from him, but I never thought a video was going to be watched either, and yet now I've got a highly credible source that told me it was, you know. So, and then the off chance, I mean, even a lot of my own friends don't watch the video I'll put out, you know. Now I'm finding out the governor did that to me speaks volumes, okay? But, you know, my interest is in cleaning up corruption, cronyism, and having efficiency of our state resources. Get rid of a board like the Interior Design Board and take its money, okay? That's an easy way to help alleviate state budget problems, all right? I'm not going to go any further. I've got quite a few other areas that I would recommend cutting, and I'll do that in a subsequent post, but I don't want this one to get too long. But I'm glad to be back making a post. I took a little break, 2-month hiatus. It's great to be back, and for those of you who are upset with me for issuing an accommodation or a voicing of extreme admiration for this act that John Bell Edwards has done with regard to the Auctioneers Licensing Board, if you don't want to be on the list anymore, just send me an email to that effect. I'll be more than happy to take you off. But this was a decision that I have made as a result of Governor John Bell Edwards doing something that I think is just and if he keeps building this kind of momentum and cleaning up corruption like this, now that's not to say that he didn't get off to. I also saw where he backtracked on the work requirement for the welfare. Hey, look, people can make errors, but when you're human enough to correct the errors, hey, that speaks volumes of character. Okay, everybody knows I was a very avid David Vitter supporter. But sometimes you can get surprised, and some things can get done that you had just said, well, we're just going to have to wait 4 years. Maybe not, Now, if anyone asks, well, are you going to vote for John Bell Edwards for re-election? Look, I'm telling you right now, my vote can be won over, okay? Now, it's going to take more than just this episode, although I'm thrilled with it. But, you know, tort reform is very important to me, and I don't see that happening under the John Bel Edwards administration. But at any rate, what I am going to do is look objectively at the candidates who run in 2019, and prior to this event I would have figured John Bel Edwards was a non-starter with me, and I'm here to tell you that's no longer the case, okay? And I'm sure he'll be thrilled to hear that. And this is the way you can, because most people would say John Bel Edwards is governor for one reason and one reason only, and that's because David Vitter had a problem with some hooker 16. I'm just cutting straight to the chase, okay? And that's probably totally accurate, that it was a fluke. And with David Vitter not going to be in, whom I strongly support, I think David Vitter would have been an outstanding governor, but he's made it clear he will not be running in 2019. So that little fluke isn't going to be there for 2019. So it's going to take, you have to run on the record, all right? I can tell you, doing things like this will be doing things like getting rid of this kind of corruption is going to be a big help, okay? There are going to be other things that will be needed, but it is possible for John Bel Edwards to expand his base to appeal to fiscal conservatives. And I am very much a fiscal conservative, so I will evaluate who I feel is the best candidate that is on that ballot in 2019, and I am not at all prepared to rule out a potential vote for John Bel Edwards. Now, for those of you who are ready to just absolutely shoot me over that, so be it, okay? I am one that's going to look at things objectively. Obviously, John Bel Edwards has made me very, very happy this week, and I want to conclude this video in saying thank you, Governor John Bel Edwards. Thank you so much, everyone.